What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Strange Road. I'm your host, Mikey, and of course, always riding shotgun, Mr. Giggles, Bub Randley. Bub, how you doing tonight?
Hey.
You good?
I'm great. Yeah, you've got me primed and ready. My goodness. I'm
Okay,
so ready
good.
to go.
Oh, we're gonna have some laughs tonight. We're gonna, talk. We're gonna get deep. I think
I'm excited.
Yeah, we had a great conversation ahead of this, so we're ready to dive in. Here we go. I want to bring in our next guest for tonight. She is a practitioner of ancient star lore in the eternal language of the heavens, teacher and founder of Guiding Star. Please welcome to the show, Kesenya Moore. Kesenya, how are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Lovely to be here, Mikey and Bub. I'm very excited. That's how I am.
Yes.
In answer to your question.
Yes,
Wonderful.
yes. Well, it's been awesome getting to know you a little bit in the few weeks we've been trying to nail this episode down for a while now. So thank you, first of all, for making the time to coming on the Strange Road. And this couldn't have worked out better. We had such a good conversation ahead of this. So I know it's going to be a great episode. I want to let everybody know a little bit about yourself and, what you're doing because, we got in contact with you from Brandon Thomas. When we had Brandon on from Expanding Reality, he talked about you and the things that you were doing and how amazing of a guest you would be on our show. So we connected and here we are. The floor is yours. Tell us about yourself.
Very grateful to Brandon for introducing us. He's a fantastic guy, and people should check out his stuff, particularly his journals that he's promoting at the moment. They're fantastic. But I am an astrologer. I've been practicing astrology for must be getting on to around 14 years now. But running a business associated with astrology, not associated, an astrological business. Let's not say associated. That sounds like it's a side hustle. It's been around about 2016. And I have a YouTube channel called, it's under my name, Kesenya Moore, but it's under the banner of Guiding Star Astrology, which is my brand. And currently, as we're recording this, I'm about 30 subscribers off 30,000 on YouTube. So rather small, I guess, in YouTube size terms, but I have a wonderful little audience and, very, very faithful audience, I guess you'd say, who tune in every week. And so I offer, a lot of like astrological readings for people and products. I teach astrology as well, which I absolutely love. That's my big passion. I love to share this knowledge of the heavens because, to know yourself is what astrology is all about. It's a bit like, I suppose, the Myers-Briggs tests, that we all do when we're going into new workplaces and what have you, and encouraged to sort of do that self-analysis stuff. And so astrology is a little bit like that. It's about getting to know who you are. In fact, Plato, his famous line is "Know thyself." I think his line's put on the Temple of Apollo at Delphi. It's just that important that we understand who we are so we make wise choices for ourselves in life and can choose what's good for us. So astrology is that kind of a facility. And so I love it. I love teaching people how to know themselves better. Very ancient knowledge. We've been doing it for 5,000 years on the planet, if not longer, but there's recorded 5,000 year documentation about astrology, but I'd say we've been doing it a hell of a lot longer than that. It's just great to be a part of that ancient wisdom and bringing it to life again in a modern way online and through the internet. It's great.
Yeah, and the astrology, I know there's just from people we've come in contact with and interviewed, I know there's Mayan astrology, there's Vedic astrology. Mm-hmm. You're into a lot of Vedic, and what was the other type of astrology what are the systems that you use?
I love this question. Thank you for asking this. Because I find that a lot of people are either into one system or another, and they get really defensive about their system of studying astrology, the techniques and what have you that they've learned. And it's almost religious zealousness that they function with, when they're talking about their system of astrology. And to me, I find that really off-putting, quite honestly, because I think there's value in all the systems. And I'll just say right from the get-go, astrology is not a religion,
Right.
It's considered in ancient times to be a science. In fact, back in the days of Plato, to be an astronomer meant both astrology and astronomy were one and the same. They were linked.
Right.
You understand the cycles, the mechanics, and you also understood how that energy, because astrology is just an assessment of energy, was affecting our lives on the planet. And it was not until the Middle Ages that we had a separation, pushed by the church, I might add. Don't get me started on that topic, but
the
church
will if you want.
it's a good topic.
We might have to
actually.
go down that road. Might have to take it down that road at some point.
Definitely, but let's take it down there now. Okay, I'll put a pin in that, and I'll just say that I use Vedic astrology, shamanic astrology, evolutionary astrology, and Western astrology, and there's so much more than just that as well. Like you said, there's Chinese, there's Mayan. There's classical astrology, horary astrology, Hellenistic astrology is a big one at the moment that's having a revival. And the reason that it's having a revival because okay, I'll step back a little. In the Vedic astrology, they've kept their tradition alive for about 2,000 years. So they haven't lost anything. But in the West, because of the church, Hellenistic astrology was the Western type of astrology. And in the West, that fell into ruins because the church and the people associated with the church kept astrology for themselves. The Vatican has more astrologers employed there than anywhere else in the world. They kept it for themselves, but they did not want people to know themselves, because if you know yourself, you don't have to go confess your sins to a priest, and therefore they don't have control over you. But if you know who you are, if you know who in the universe and the cycle of things, it is empowering and it's liberating. And so they didn't want people to have that power.
This is kind of the concept that we're all our own god or goddess or whatever you want to say. We all have that power. It's not disseminated from a point down. It's we all share that ability. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to stop you on that.
But that's right. They wanted to take that knowledge of who we are away from us. So we were powerless, we were traumatized, and we were therefore easier to control. When you know astrology and you understand the cycles that you're going through in your life, the cycles that are happening in the big wide world around us, it takes the fear away. From the difficulties and the, worry about what's going to happen next, and they, in a nutshell, they took that power away from each individual. And so back to Hellenistic astrology, there's been a big revival of reading ancient texts that pertain to astrology from the days of Plato and so forth, that we are now starting to understand more and apply more. I'm trying to think of the name of Chris Brennan is an astrologer who's heading up a lot of that research and bringing it back to life. He's quite brilliant. He has a podcast called the Astrology Podcast. Very, very worthwhile checking him out.
That's fantastic. So
very cool.
Would you say right now, are you kind of tapping into
Sorry about that noise.
Oh, you're good.
Just excuse me. Sorry.
Good. All good.
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
that.
you.
Can we cut that
you're
out?
fine. You're
Absolutely
fine.
no
That's
worries.
totally fine.
We can totally cut that out. Look at my time code here.
Look at the time.
It's all good. It's all.
That was just
good.
an important phone call that Dave was waiting for.
Of course. So
all good.
Yeah, you were talking about Hellenistic astrology. You were talking about Vedic astrology, which has been an interest of mine. I don't even pretend to know and understand, but anything in the Vedic knowledge tree, because they, like you said, they have this. There's families that are generation after generation that have these scrolls and these old books, and it's all documented, and it's all there with healing remedies, these oils that they use, the Vedic healing practices. I mean, all the Western medicine, the surgeries, all come from the ancient Vedic texts. So, the Vedic astronomy, which I met a guy at Chaco Canyon in New Mexico he had built the observatory out there, and he used to be an astrobiologist. He got bored out of his mind with astrobiology and moved to India for 10 years and studied Vedic astrology and astronomy, because it's like you said, it's all together. And so he became an archaeoastronomer, and now he's an older gentleman now, but he sees where the ancient sites and rediscovers where the winter solstice, the summer solstice, all the alignments. And so it's always been an interest of mine is Vedic astronomy, and what kind of sets it apart is, like you said, this unbroken chain of knowledge.
Yeah, a lot of it was handed down verbally as well, from teacher to teacher to teacher, mentor to student, and so forth. But I would love to meet that friend of yours. Like, he sounds amazing, and of course, combining a knowledge of the mechanics of the heavens with the astrological wisdom is just so precious. And that's what I think is lacking in a lot of modern astrology, the kind of stuff you see in magazines and online, with it's really shallow astrology, because people don't understand the mechanics of what they're talking about. But knowing that they go hand in hand, it's imperative, I think. So your friend sounds incredible, and I would love to check out his work. But my use of Vedic astrology is perhaps a little different. I've learned off Ernst Wilhelm, who's a wonderful, knowledgeable teacher, but he uses the tropical system rather than the sidereal system. I don't know if you're familiar with those two systems at all. I'll just give a little bit of an overview. So the Vedic system uses sidereal astrology, and basically what sidereal astrology is when you go out at night and you look up, you're going to see the moon. What is it? It's a full moon tonight in Virgo, and so that's tropical, so it must be in Leo. So you'd go out tonight and you'd look up and you'd see the moon full in the sign of Leo. That's sidereal astrology. You look up in the sky, where are things against the background of stars? And that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, to work like that? The thing is that in the system that I use and that Ernst teaches, he uses Vedic techniques and Vedic knowledge and Vedic understanding as taught by Brihat Parashara, but they use the tropical system of astrology. And what that is it relates to like Stonehenge and the precession of the equinoxes, and bases the placement of the planets on the solstices and the equinoxes, and how it moves by a degree every 72 years. So currently, if we look up in the sky and we see the full moon in the full moon in Leo, in the tropical system, it'll actually be in the sign of Virgo, because we've progressed since the solstice occurred 2,000 years ago at 0 degrees of Aries. We've progressed 23 degrees since then, when you're looking at that precession of the equinoxes. It's probably making it very confusing for people who are new to this. So anyhow, my reason that I use tropical astrology, which is not based on what you visually see in the sky, based on the seasons and the alignment of the solstices and the equinoxes. The reason I use tropical astrology with the Vedic techniques is because we're living in the solar system and on a planet that is governed by solstices and equinoxes and seasons. And if we want to understand life in the body and our human incarnation, we need to context it to the external influences of the seasons. Spring always starts in the tropical system when the sun moves into 0 degrees of Aries, always. And it will, in the tropical system, in 5,000 years from now, it'll still be spring when the sun moves into 0 degrees of Aries. They align the tropical system to that. Whereas the sidereal visible astrology system works very differently. So, to sum up, hopefully not confusing people, in a nutshell, we've got life on the body, life here in the body, on the planet. We've got to govern things by what's affecting the planet. And that's why I use tropical astrology. Sidereal is very important at a different level because it pertains to the background stars, the constellations, and that's a very spiritual thing beyond what's happening in the solar system. It's taking things out there to a higher dimension. So it does have a role to play as well. But if we're looking, if someone says, oh, when am I going to meet a partner, or when am I going to get some money, or when am I going to change jobs? Well, I need to context that to the situation we're in on planet Earth, because they're manifestations that are occurring on Earth, whereas your spiritual life is much more out beyond the stars in other dimensions. So both sidereal and tropical have a role to play. I hope that makes some kind of sense.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. And, the precession of the equinox is essentially the Earth's wobble on the axis. So as the Earth is rotating and spinning and going around the sun, it's also like a top that's kind of going out of rhythm. And so that's one of the longest cycles of the Mayan calendar. The Yuga cycle is based off of these kind of cycles, these big giant cycles. And so, it's how you can date ancient sites too, is by the precession of the equinox. And so, it's hard for me to wrap my head around some of these things that go real deep. But simple question is, for someone that maybe is the uninitiated, doesn't know anything about astrology, how can that star system possibly affect me, my life, what's happening, where I'm going? That's
good question.
You know what I mean? If I don't know if that's so general or what.
No, it's a question that a lot of people want answered. Look, I might start answering this question with my own background, which I come from a very religious family, very conservative, very was Baptist church was brought up in. I went to Bible college and got a degree from my Bible college, and basically very isolated, almost cult-like worldview. And of course, astrology was demonized. You don't do astrology, that's of the devil, and so on, which is the lie we've been fed to disempower us, as I said earlier. So when I woke up to the truth about astrology, and the penny started to drop for me. Hang on, this is actually a very important, powerful system. Then a lot of those questions that came to my mind, like, why is this a powerful system and why does it work? And I want to understand fully, because when I'm talking with my family, to them it's just woo-woo. How can it be that, what I'm seeing evidentially, how can I explain that in a way that makes sense to people who think it's just BS?
Sure.
So I looked into that a lot, and that was a big part of the research I did when I first discovered astrology. Essentially, it is my belief that everything is energy. We live in an energetic universe, and I think as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, we're going to wake up to this so much more. You're already seeing signs of it everywhere, actually, people realizing that everything is based on energy. Quantum mechanics, and quantum. What is it when they take things down to the lowest level? Sorry, it is pointing to that energetic level at the very minute detail, as well as the big, black holes and monstrous stars like Betelgeuse and things like that.
Yeah,
it's all about energy.
Quarks and these weird little things that are subatomic, the smallest things imaginable. You ever watch the movie Ant-Man when he goes into the quantum world? I think they kind of have it pretty close in that movie. About where
I have to check it out.
There's no time and space. The time and space and everything moves at a different wavelength.
That's right. And we there's been experiments done on the Earth in that quantum field that prove, to my mind, astrology. For example, the one where they split an atom or a subatomic particle, it mightn't have been an atom, it might have been something smaller, and they took one part of that particle to England and the other was in a lab on Hawaii or something like that, and they both were spinning in the same direction, and they changed the spin direction of one of the particle in Hawaii, and at the very same moment they did that, the particle in England changed direction and it was spinning as well. So proving that there is a connection. There's a connection that we can't see. That it's not like there's a wire running from the particle in Hawaii to the particle in England. It was those kind of quantum experiments are proof, to my mind, that astrology is real because it's energy. So what's happening with Pluto and where Pluto is, and what's happening even with the fixed stars like Regulus and Speaker and so forth, they're impacting us, whether we can see it or not. I mean, go out on the beach. It's midsummer here in Australia. Go lie on a beach for an hour and then come back inside and tell me that the sun didn't have an impact on you.
Right.
It does in a physical sense and it does in an energetic sense as well. Yeah. So that's my answer to that. Is astrology real question?
Yeah. And my whole thing is, I believe it. It's not that I don't think it's not real or it's, to me, I try to conceptualize, because again, you can measure a person's energy. People have been talking about auras and it's like, oh, that's just woo-woo garb. But now they're really starting to be able to photograph auras. They're starting to be able to detect different wavelengths of energy and different things. So some of this stuff that has always been considered woo is really being like, now we have the technology to measure it and weigh it and see it, like subatomic particles and black holes and all these things that were theoretical. And who's to say that, we're not going to eventually in like 10, 15 years realize like, oh, all the people that were into crystals and astrology for years and talked about energy, man, they were right.
That's right. That's going to happen. But you know what? My partner, David, he has an article on his website where he talks about research that was done in the 1940s where they measured some radio company measured the radio waves of a certain time, placement of when planets are in a certain position and so forth, and the effects of the radio waves, and it was proving astrology to be correct through radio waves. Well, they've hidden this information. No, but they don't want people to know that there is actual scientific evidence proving with radio waves that planets have an impact. There's been a lot of energy put into stopping people knowing that this is true and keeping people, especially in the West, not so much in places like India and China, but in the West, there's an investment in keeping this knowledge from people. So we are waking up. When Pluto has moved into the sign of Aquarius in tropical astrology, which many people feel is stepping us closer to the full age of Aquarius, out of the age of Pisces that we've been in for 2,000 years. And Aquarius has big, strong connections with the science of astrology. So I think we're going to see massive, big rises over the next 20 years in that happening. And since the other sign that's heavily associated with astrology is Scorpio, and since Jupiter was in Scorpio sort of around, from memory, I think it was 2010, we've seen a lot of people like moving into astrological knowledge. It's been becoming a popular thing amongst millennials. They want it. They crave this knowledge, Most millennials were born with Pluto in Scorpio, actually. So they are going to be very powerful astrologers as they come up and learn their craft and have a bit of lived life experience to back it all up.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, people... you always hear presidents had their own astrologers. Reagan's wife was obsessed with astrology. Jimmy Carter, all these guys had astrologers. So, it's not really like it's some kind of a new thing, but there's always been people that are unexpectedly into, and astrology seems to be one of those things where it's to me, it's been, I think, pretty widely used for a long time. But like you said, the religious aspect around it being satanic or evil and all those things of the internet's broken through all that Totally.
It has. It's done an amazing job. Wall Street, they all financial astrologers, you know,
Yep.
they're and people say, well, how come all astrologers aren't rich? Well, you've got to know, you've got to know how to buy and sell. You've got to be a trader basically first to know that craft. And then you add astrology in on top of that, and it takes you to the next level. So just because you're an astrologer doesn't mean you know how to trade and buy and sell. And
absolutely.
Exchange. But
absolutely.
Princess Diana, she used an astrologer a lot. In fact, the person who was her astrologer has been barred from the Astrological Association of London, I think it is, because her astrologer shared a lot of personal information about Diana with the media and the public, and of course that's very much against the rules, you know, the unwritten rules of astrology. They all the powerful people use it. They use it when they're establishing a new country and setting up a chart for a new country, things like that. Like what we were saying before about, it's splitting, like taking away the power for the ordinary person. That doesn't mean that the rich and the powerful didn't keep it for themselves and use it for themselves. And they've been doing that since forever. So people would be astounded at who uses astrology. In my opinion, they all do to some extent. And certainly organizations like the Masons and what have you, very, very big into knowing astrology. That's a whole can of worms.
Oh my gosh, we could do probably a 10-hour podcast on just that subject alone.
Could we?
One thing we were kind of we were talking a little bit before we got started, and we were kind of getting into what's happening now in the sky and how is it affecting people. We've kind of established, in a way of how, it's based on energy and these celestial bodies and they interact with our body. But, I always get curious of, okay, that's great, but how is it affecting us? In what way, I guess, is it affecting us? Is it preventing us from achieving something? Is it propelling us forward to achieve something? And it kind of just depends on, the rhythm of the universe and kind of striking while the iron's hot when there's opportunities. Or I don't know if you can talk about that. Maybe I'm not explaining it very well.
You're doing great. No. It does both of those things. It's empowering and it is limiting too. Like we can see when, it's not going to be a good time to get married or buy a car or whatever, because the astrology's, we can still buy a car, but if we buy a car during those difficult times, well, the car might be a dud and we might be always taking it back to be fixed. So we can work with the energies to our better advantage by knowing them and how they're affecting us and so forth. So that what I've just described there is actually known as electional astrology, where you make decisions in life based on the planets and where they are. I don't do electional astrology I do it for myself, but I don't do it for other people because I find people they get really worried very easily about, I can't fart without checking my chart, like I've got to know what the planets are doing in every little situation. So, it just gets a bit ridiculous after a while. Great. So I don't want to encourage that sort of thing, but big decisions and big choices, it's really helpful to understand the astrological cycles. And certainly with what we've all been through throughout 2020, 21, 22, astrologers were speaking about this is coming, get ready, everybody. It's going to be tough times, a couple of years before that was that happened. One of the big things at that time when you're talking about like how astrology affects the collective was that Pluto was going to have its return in the American chart. Pluto was coming back for the first time to its natal position in the chart of America. And that was going to have big impacts on America. And I think those impacts will play out particularly over the next 10 to 15 years. And we're starting to see that happening in America right now, that a lot of the time, like a Pluto return or some other energy astrologically will set the wheels in motion. It doesn't mean that, Pluto returns and suddenly there's a big explosion and America doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't work like that. It sets things in motion. And what did Pluto's return set in motion? Well, we had the COVID pandemic. We had, all those implications that's now led to, whether you believe it was a real thing or not, it's led to certain economic implications, social implications, rulership and leadership implications. Like it's started a lot of things unraveling through that, especially in the West. And who governs the West? America. So, we're seeing the rollout from that sort of thing right now. And so that's how we would look at things in a big picture, global, national sort of setting, but it affects us all very personally as well.
Right.
How things are interacting with our energy, the energy we carry from the chart from the moment we were born, such as eclipses, such as Pluto changing signs, and big things like that have an impact.
What do we need to watch out for right now? What's happening in the skies? Because the other night I saw this gnarly planet-moon alignment on the crescent, and it was right under the moon. And I was like, wow, that's pretty strange. It just looked cool. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on right now, but it feels to me like, it's winter, so it's hard to nail down. It's been raining and kind of just blah in Ohio. The weather's we've had some nice sunny days, but, is it the winter depression? Is there just kind of these cycles that, to me, it feels like something weird's going on right now, at least for myself, just feeling like, I can't wait for spring and summer now? Or is it maybe something astronomically that's affecting all of us?
Yeah, it could be. It's probably a bit of both. I'm intrigued, though. Do you know what planet was sitting under the crescent moon?
I wish I had my phone. I just stepped outside and looked up and saw it, and I think my phone was in the house. I should have got my sky map out, but it seemed like Venus, because it hangs low in the sky.
Little bright.
Yeah, very bright.
Was it at sunset?
It was just after dawn, so the moon was really low at that time. So it was kind of, rising up and really big with this little planet right underneath it.
I'd say that it probably would have been Venus, and that's quite a beautiful interaction. I'm just checking while we're talking to see where things are right now. So was this about maybe, I don't know, a week ago? Yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah. So it might have been Jupiter actually, at that time. Anyhow, so just back to your question there. Sorry, I just had to look and see what was going on. This is the thing with astrology. You're like, where was this?
You have to look at the chart. Sure, you have to actually see where, and we're in Ohio and you're in Australia, so.
That's right. And that alignment that you would have seen, we wouldn't have seen down here because of the angle of the tilt of the planet. You see something different. And that's where a very ancient Babylonian visual astrology is so powerful, because it's very much on, well, where are you on the planet and what is happening? Even down to, is there cloud cover over the moon? Well, that'll have certain implications. And they get the ancient Babylonians were very much into visual. Like, is Mars really red and bright in the sky? Oh, that indicates war. Or is Mars invisible? Well, nothing's going to come of this political situation that we think might lead to war, but Mars isn't bright, so there's going to be no war. So, things like that were very visual for the ancient Babylonians, and I love that stuff. But unfortunately, fortunately, we're starting to research that more and understand that more. A lot of that's been lost throughout the years, but they found a big library of clay tablets in Nineveh some years ago that they are just working their way through, that has a lot of this fabulous information in it. But yes, so exciting. I'm really like, hurry up and, assess those tablets. I want to know.
They got AI generating, reading those tablets. They're using AI to scan all of it quickly and efficiently and being able to archive it all, so then you don't have scribes translating. So
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah,
That's
really
really
is.
exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, they need to get moving on it, because I think like a few years ago, ISIS tried to blow it all up and bomb that
Man,
part
that
of
Yeah,
it.
they
was so
destroyed a lot
sad.
of antiquities.
In Iraq and Syria in
Disgusting.
particular. Man, that was
Yeah.
rough to watch. They just were taking crowbars and jackhammers and sledgehammers right into the beautiful fascia of carvings.
Now you got to wonder how many
Heartbreak.
times that's happened over history.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just all the
Well, the
history
burning
that's
of the
gone.
library at Alexandria, like
Boom.
There you
that.
go. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Just
how sad is
tragic.
that? They had all the Egyptian stuff, all the mystery schools of probably the pre-civilizations before Sumer and India and Egypt, probably going back to something surviving from what's called Atlantis. Who knows? I mean, the Library of Alexandria is like that middle point of the super ancients in our modern time. And
Yep.
untold amounts of massive books and scrolls just gone.
Yep. Yeah.
Get depressed.
The Nag Hammadi texts, they believe, were some people sort of capturing what they could from Alexandria and hiding it away out in the desert, which I'm so grateful that, there were
Right.
some people that were trying to do that. But when you think about the amount of knowledge that was in that place and how much of it was lost, it's just devastating. Why would people do that? Why would they destroy,
I think control.
something so precious? Yeah.
Again, control. Knowledge
Again.
is power. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Man.
Knowledge is power, and that's something I often say in my readings. When you know what yourself, you've got power. This is a form of knowledge giving power for sure.
There you go.
But you asked me what's going on in the sky, and I didn't answer because
No, that's okay. I mean, we have an
Sidetrack.
eclipse. We have an eclipse coming up. There's a lot coming. I know that. We have the eclipse coming through Ohio, the full eclipse. There's an event out at Serpent Mound. They're having an event back where we grew up, and we're right in the path here. And it's everybody's talking about the eclipse. I mean, a lot of kind of everyday people, that we're aware in Ohio, people are coming here from all over to see this eclipse. So it's cool.
Yeah. It is cool. And as a YouTube astrologer, nothing gets more views on my videos than an eclipse video. People want to know, how's this going to affect me? And rightly so, because eclipses are like new moons or full moons on steroids, everybody says. They're like 10 times as powerful as a new moon. And we all know that new moons and full moons can cause emotional upset and upheaval. And maybe that's why you've been feeling a little bit funny lately, like that we are about to have, as we're recording this, a full moon in Virgo, and full moons can make us more emotional and trigger those sorts of things. My mother is a teacher, and the kids, she will always say, go much more ratty around a full moon than otherwise.
Yep.
My sister's a nurse. The emergency departments go crazy at times of full moons. There's a reason why we associate werewolves with full moons,
Right.
because they're powerful. They are powerful energy. We do feel them. And so when you make it, when you look at it being an eclipse, a full moon eclipse, for example, then, it's like amplified even more. So they do have strong impacts on us at a personal level. And this particular, you're referring to the new moon eclipse that's going to be occurring on April 8th in America. There will be all eclipses come in sets of 2. Sometimes, some years we have more than 4 eclipses in a year. So we have a set of 2, and usually at one time in the year, and then another set of 2 6 months later. Some years have 6 eclipses. In 2037, we're going to have 7 eclipses in the one year. That is going to be a killer year at 2037 because there's 7 eclipses in the year. But 2020 was a killer year again because it had 6 eclipses occurring in the one year. And we all know 2020 was nuts, for many reasons, like Pluto-Jupiter conjunction, Saturn Saturn Jupiter conjunction, and these 6 eclipses, all of these things tied into making 2020 hell on earth. But eclipses don't always bring hell on earth.
Man, yeah.
Fortunately, we have some people are saying 4 this year. I do notice some scientific websites saying 5 eclipses this year. There is kind of a sort of more minor eclipse occurring sort of around the 23rd of April. But back to what we were talking about, there's going to be a full moon eclipse in March. At the end of March, I think it's the 25th of March. I probably got it written down here. Yeah, 25th of March, there's a full moon eclipse. And then that's when the Earth's shadow moves across the moon. So you might notice that blood moon effect, or the moon can be blotted out just to a certain extent from a full moon eclipse. And a lot of people can see full moon eclipses. They're visible from like large areas of the planet. But a new moon eclipse where the sun gets blotted out, it's rarer to see that. You don't see that as much, and it's only seen by a very a small area, like a strip, rather than a big broad sweep of a country. So to see a new moon eclipse, which is what's going to be happening and being seen throughout America on April 8th, that's it's very powerful. And in ancient times, they actually thought to see an eclipse had certain, we were talking about Babylonian astrology before, had certain omens, had certain meanings and certain implications for a nation and also personally as well. So the fact that you've got this new moon eclipse, it's a total eclipse. The sun's going to be totally blocked, occurring across America. It's coming up through Mexico and going through Texas and then up to Ohio, where you are. Those areas are going to be the areas that will feel the impact of the eclipse more than ever. And if you're watching it, then the theory, according to ancient Babylonian astrology, is that you will be impacted if you can see it, more so than somebody like myself in Australia who won't be able to see that solar eclipse.
Right. Wow.
So it is going to be exciting, and we were talking before we started recording about the fact that there was a solar eclipse in 2017 across America as well, and then we have this one intersecting that same that path of the 2017 solar eclipse, and I know it was very popular. A lot of people went out to view that at the time as well. So eclipses are in our consciousness as something very exciting and very meaningful because they're rare and they do bring powerful impacts onto countries and that are seeing them, and onto people's lives that are seeing them as well.
Oh, yeah. The one in 2017, I'll never forget. I got 25 solar filtered glasses and brought them to my girls' preschool and handed them all out to the kids and the teachers. And we all watched the eclipse, and the birds were freaking out and flopping around all over the place. They don't know what's going on. It affects their flight.
I think I saw that one.
Yeah. The 2017 one was amazing. That was
I was at work.
A full, correct, Kesenya? That was a full solar eclipse.
Yeah, you needed the glasses and everything.
The one I saw an annular solar eclipse, which was a pretty special one in Chaco Canyon when I met Dr. Kim Malville. That's why I was visiting Chaco Canyon. We were talking about that earlier, where, Dr. Kim kind of got bored with being an astrophysicist and started studying Vedic astronomy. But, Dr. Kim had a solar filtered telescope. So I was able to take my camera and nicely put it into the eye hole, and it kind of cropped my frame, but I could shoot photos through the solar filtered telescope. And we shot the whole transition. It was magical, especially being at an ancient site like that. Oh my gosh, meeting him, it was like, whoa, man, there were some serious things happening, because that's when I started taking video production more seriously. I asked him, I really love history. I want to either go to school for archaeology, or I want to keep doing video production and play around with video and be creative. He said, he said, keep going with the video because we need people like you to come out here and document these places. And I'm
So
like,
true.
I'm sold. Here we go. And he gave me some amazing advice. But it was all during that eclipse out in this magical place. And I look back, and that was one of the most important, like, springboard moments ever to kind of start doing what we're doing now.
And why can't you combine the both, videology,
Sure.
if that's what you call it,
Yes,
with
yeah.
the ancient knowledge? I mean,
Yeah.
it's people are so fascinated by this. They want to understand this. There's a real awakening, I think, happening in people's lives to want to know ancient wisdom, because I think we recognize that we've been sold a pack of lies in modern times about the way things are in the world, and we're very much looking back to the ancient knowledge. I mean, understanding that how the pyramid was built, and how they did all that amazing,
They have no clue.
not just architecture, but I saw a lecture by Ben from Uncharted X recently where he was analysing a stone vase that had been created. You couldn't make that stone vase without modern technological equipment, but this vase was, 3,000 years old, 5,000 years old, something like that. Amazing,
It's like it was turned. It was turned on a machine and lathed. It's not a pot that you mold into a ceramic piece of art. No, this was literally carved out of very, very hard stone. I watched that video as well. I love Ben Van Kerkwick. I would be a dream to have that guy on our show. Totally obsessed with what he's doing. But it's like, we don't even know how they did mostly everything that they're explaining away with copper chisel tools and these pulley and tackle systems. And they moved with, logs, rolled logs to move these. Like, what do we know? Copper chisels.
Yeah.
It's pink diorite, or, it's some of the hardest stone imaginable.
So I think that the wisdom coming out of that is that we are realizing the ancients were not some primitive people. They knew far more than probably what we know these days. And therefore we want to tap into that. We want to understand that. And that's one of the reasons that I'm compelled to know and research astrology, because they all believed it back then. They used it back then. They aligned their buildings to the stars. There was so much significance that we have lost. And it's all a part of coming back to that ancient understanding and ancient wisdom.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit about the significance of the eclipse coming up? Is there anything you've been charting or feeling into about this particular eclipse?
Well, I have. I've got. This is my astro wheel. I make and sell these wheels that show where the planets are. But I've got the eclipse here. You might be able to just see.
I'm going to put you up. I'm going to put you up full screen. Here you go.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Boom.
All right.
Okay. There we are. So this is. Oh, hello. This is using.
Floor is yours.
This is using the tropical system, and in the tropical system, we've got the moon here making a conjunction with the sun at 19 degrees of Aries. And isn't it fascinating how from our position on Earth, the moon completely covers and blocks the sun? They're both the same size in the sky, even though in reality they're such different sizes. I mean, like the odds of us being on this planet with a moon that fits exactly, it's amazing. Eclipses are phenomenal in that way. And they really showcase that phenomenon that's so interesting. So anyway, it's at 19 degrees of Aries. So anybody who has a planet, say their rising degree or their sun or their moon in their natal chart at this point is going to feel this eclipse more than other people, and it is likely to impact their life in some way more than other people. Now, I probably should mention that everybody has their own unique astrology chart based on the moment that you popped out of your mum and entered the world. The ancients actually believed that the soul entered the body at that moment. Up until that time, you were, like a material being, but you didn't have your soul until you take the first breath of life. So that's why they assign your particular energetic astrology chart at that moment that you take your first breath, when you come out of your mum. And so that's why knowing the time of your birth in astrology is so important, because the time of your birth sets up where all the planets fall around the horoscope at any given moment. So this is occurring, I can't remember the actual time that is going to be exact, to be honest. So sorry about that. But let's say it was, 3 a.m. or something. We're going to get the exact eclipse occurring. Well, at that very moment, we're going to have Jupiter here conjuncting with Uranus in Taurus. We're going to have Saturn with Mars. That's a bit scary, I've got to say, to have those two together. We're going to have all these planets in these positions. An hour or so later, well, the moon is not going to be in quite the same conjunction with the sun. And the other planets may have shifted slightly as well from where they were. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is that every single moment is unique, because the planets are moving all the time. And so the time you were born is unique to you. Your rising degree, you only have sort of a 5-minute window to have a certain degree as your rising degree, and that's probably the most powerful point of anyone's chart. So each person has their own energetic imprint that they are carrying and living with throughout the course of their life. And as things form, because the planets keep moving, they interact with our energy, the energy of our moment of birth. And so if you have anything significant around 19 degrees of Aries, this eclipse is going to interact with you personally. And how that might play out is, well, solar eclipses tend to give us, because it's a new moon, give us some sort of brand new beginning and some bright new opportunity. So for people at this point, something exciting and new might be manifesting. Usually it would manifest either the week before or the week after, and then those manifestations would play out in some way over the whole 6 months until we have the next set of eclipses.
Wow. That's so cool.
So it is cool. It is cool. And on a global level, I was looking at the chart of America this morning, because everyone's wondering how this is going to affect America, because it's being visible in America, being seen in America. And I hope I'm not being too controversial when I say that this eclipse is going to be making a square aspect, a 90-degree angle to Cancer. And the reason that I'll step back a sec. America's sun is in Cancer. And so they're a Cancerian nation, and that has certain implications with the type of nation America is when we're looking at national astrology. But what was interesting to me is this 90-degree angle is triggering their 8th house cusp, or their 8th house manifestation point. And this is where I'm saying, I hope I'm not being too controversial, but and you can cut this out if you think that it is, but we kind of are starting to realize that it's mafias and so forth that might be pulling the strings behind a lot of things.
That's not surprising at all, Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it. Yeah, Bub's with you for sure.
Yeah. Good. Okay, good.
Yeah, you're not alone.
You're in the right place.
I'm just trying to keep myself from saying too much. I talk a lot sometimes, and I enjoy what you're saying and hearing your perspective on things. So it's not that I'm not interested. I'm just restraining my gift of gab.
I look forward to hearing your gift of gab. But this eclipse is making, like, the 8th house cusp represents mafias. It represents hidden secrets, hidden agendas, organizations like the Masons and so forth.
Secret societies.
So
all that stuff.
Is this just kind of a broad question here? Is this kind of the year of real truth?
I think because this is making a hard aspect, a 90-degree angle, I think either it's going to get very hard for these mafias to keep doing what they're doing.
Right.
Wow.
And we're already seeing that happen.
Sure.
And I hope that's the case. I hope that, they come undone because of this. That's my hope, But it could mean that it's revealed more to people. People realize, maybe they're not they come out and it's illuminated now more than ever before that we're actually not living by the Constitution any longer. We're living under mafia or fascist law or whatever. So those sorts of things are likely to come out more, and hopefully it comes out for the good, to be changed, to be altered, and that people wake up. But we'll see, won't we? You know, we've had considered when Pluto returned to the natal point in the American chart, that would have been an opportunity for America to move out of its teenagerhood as a nation and move into adulthood, up to its maturity, and how they handled that return was considered, would determine how they would behave as an adult nation, because you're a young nation, like Australia is a young nation.
Sure.
Did it handle the COVID years very well? I don't know. I don't know. Did they become an adult, or did they stay as a
It's
teenage?
all still unfolding, how everything was handled. And also state to state varied too. America as a whole is tough to say, but state to state, every state handled it differently.
State to state, county to county,
county to county,
district to school district. It got,
yeah.
That's one of the biggest problems that came out of it. It was just the
division. It was very divided.
Loss of community, loss of family type. I mean, it divided people pretty good. So it's scary because of being able to do that very quickly to what used to be very strong bonds and relationships. It's like, we can't have that. We talked about this the other day, Mikey and I, and Stoner were like, man, we got to be able to talk about things. I don't even care if we disagree. Yeah. We can disagree. That's fine.
That's right. That's okay. That's it.
I like pizza. You don't like pizza. I like, I don't like broccoli. You like broccoli, whatever. It's great. We can all like different things, but we got to have discourse. And that's where we've lost some of that ability to even just have a conversation. It's like, nope, that's a conversation that's not allowed. It's like, whoa, what? I'm not even saying anything wild yet. And I think I know the limits fairly well.
Right.
This is what I mean by, like your Constitution, it has freedom of speech as a key foundation.
Correct.
Like, if you can't have that conversation, if you can't say what you feel and what you think, do you have freedom of speech?
It's scary.
It's gotten a little Orwellian in the whole, 2 hoofs good, 4 hoofs bad, whatever that is, the whole Animal Farm and, 1984 and like the rewriting of rules, right? In Animal Farm, that's always one of my favorite parts is all the animals rebel against the farmer and they all agree, like, 4 hoofs good, 2 feet bad or whatever, they're categorizing people are bad and animals are good. And then, the pigs start walking on their hoofs. So then they're like, well, it's fine if we just walk on 2 hoofs. And it's like the rewriting of the rules and all this. And just that story just ingrained so hard on me when I was a child, and I read it a lot because I thought it was a Animal Farm. I thought it was a story about a farm with animals, which it was, but
it tricks
I didn't
you into learning
realize
about
it was a little headier than that.
Well, it tricks you into learning about authoritarianism and the slippery slope of, and it was also created during the Cold War and the times where,
but they also re-engineered that when they made it a film or whatever it was. I want to say the CIA redid it, like the message and how they did it was changed slightly just to take away the connotation of what he was trying to say in that whole story. But sorry, I don't mean to sidetrack too much, but
no,
there's that
point.
whole,
not a sidetrack. These are these kinds of topics I think are going to be more and more prevalent because of Pluto's move into Aquarius, which is the other big event this year. So you've got the eclipse that we've been talking about, and that will affect us all personally. Like there'll be new beginnings. It's considered, I've just got some notes here that I'm just referring to, but a job of an eclipse is to shine sort of what we call a glaring ray of truth into our life, and that's why I say that on a national level, things might be being revealed that we didn't realize before. Mm-hmm. But personally as well. So, and often an eclipse it means new beginnings, but where there's a new beginning, there's also an ending. Something's concluding, something's finishing so that a new beginning can happen. But the good news with this eclipse is that it's being caused by the north node of the moon, which is about taking us more into our destiny. So many of us will be moving into our our destiny that our soul wanted to achieve when we incarnated into the body. So it might be, for some people, it might look like the end of a job. We might lose a job. There was an eclipse back in 2017 where I lost, because it was interacting with my chart, I lost a job, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to feed my family? I was a single mum at the time, and I was panicking, but it was through that situation that I was like, well, okay, astrology, it's you and me, away we go. We're going to make this work. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me, quite frankly, because astrology has allowed me to sort of navigate those lockdowns that Australia was phenomenally renowned for during the COVID years and so on. It was a gift from the universe, even though it felt like destruction. So I'll just point that out. If anyone goes through sort of a loss of something or some massive life change that is caused by the eclipse, often eclipses cause divorces and, like I said, job losses and things like that. But when it's with the North Node like this, it's about moving us more into our purpose and our destiny for being here. So it's about trusting and going with the flow when you're, being impacted by an eclipse personally. It's really, and we were talking before we started, but Bub, you were born under an eclipse, the day before an eclipse you were born.
How about that?
You carry eclipse energy and that in astrology.
I'm going to say I'm not shocked, and not that I know in a positive way or anything, but just, it might explain a lot. Sorry.
Well, in astrology, to be born under eclipse means basically you were born under a full moon eclipse, but life for you is somehow very fated, like the universe is pulling the strings, and again, you have to go with the flow and trust what is happening more so than, other people who seem to have free will to make things happen the way they want. Why are you laughing?
Because I'm
Okay,
Mikey.
let's just come on ahead with it. So, Kesenya, this episode that I set up for all of us was more important for Bub. I really wanted you to, and right away when you popped in, you started talking about Bub's, what you found from his chart. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go, because this is my whole intention. I've had great readings in the past. I've connected with some folks that really blew my mind, and I don't go and get readings and go talk to mediums hardly ever. But when I do, it's been very powerful for me. And so instantly, my intention with all of this is hopefully Bub's thing is going to bubble up of whatever. Because a lot of things we've been talking about, and on the show too, is Bub feels like he's not sure what he really wants to do, or what, we talked about this with Mel Michael, who's a sound healer and amazing musician. And she's kind of really stepping into her path fully for the first time. And she's been at it for 10, 15 years, trying to really understand who she is, what her path is. And so that's all I'll say is this is interesting.
Go on. Please do.
Well, in your chart, we use a technique called progressions. I won't explain what that is, rather complex, but you're within the year, you're going to be having your progressed moon making a connection with your sun, where your sun is in the chart, and that's like a new moon, but in a very personal way to you, and it only occurs sort of roughly every 30 odd years. So it is a powerful time of renewing, of turning over a new page in life and making a fresh start. And the sun is very connected to career and how we shine in the world. And the moon represents our emotion and our ability to feel comfortable and at peace and at one with things. So when they connect like that in the sky or in the progressed chart that I'm looking at, it speaks to a unity between how you show up in the world, how you shine yourself in the world, your career perhaps, and your emotional sense of satisfaction and fulfillment coming in together as one. That's, I'm just looking at your chart now, that's probably about 8 months away from occurring. So keep me posted on what happens for you with that.
Will do.
My mind is blown right now.
I mean, you're so over target. It's
ridiculous.
Like,
I am
like
dying over here
battleship.
right now. I am just freaking out right now because, I was just so praying. I'm like, there's got to be something guiding this episode. And I'm like, I really felt just all the conversations we had is this thing. And we talked about it with Mel, and I've been talking to Bub privately about, it's just like, man, you have almost too many talents. Bub is like almost too talented, where he's like, I don't know where to focus what I really want to do with my heart, my soul. And it's just like, he plays guitar, he can write music, he sings, he's, a great communicator. There's all these abilities, but it's like, I've been down this road personally for me to get to the point where, creating this show. And so I've been I've still got such a long way to go to really understand what exactly we should all be doing, right? Or, but I'm sometimes actively pursuing it, and sometimes I take my foot off the gas, and you're kind of in this transition, Bub. And so this is just crazy.
But she said it too, starting out. I don't know if it was something like just with where I'm born in general, or with the eclipse, or what have you. But it was something of being, you said, almost like fatalistic. And I've kind of felt in a certain way, I'll say it this way. I feel like, in me, even from early on age, but I feel like almost like I know I'm a character here, and that I'm like part of the construct. I don't know how to put that. I don't know if other people are aware that they are. Does that make sense? I don't know if that's too meta there, but
I don't know.
No. That strikes me, what you're describing there, as being very Scorpionic. You're a Scorpio rising, which is your rising sign is, the ancients believed that the soul came from the sign rising on the eastern horizon at the moment you were born. And so you're part of the Scorpio family, so to speak. And Scorpio's incredibly deep. They want to get to the bottom of things. They want to understand, the depth of things, all things. And so they love to research hidden mysteries and so forth. And so what you're describing there is that, I feel perhaps a desire to know, who am I here on the planet?
Wow.
And where do I fit? In a deep way. So.
Yeah, and what to do with that too.
I love this. It cracks Mikey up. I'm getting chills right now, man, because this is exactly what I was hoping eventually someone we could come in contact with and have shine a little light on. It's like, no, but this is all part of your process, man. You're feeling this angst inside because you're like on the precipice
of something.
Yeah. Well, you also have Saturn. Saturn sits in Scorpio on your ascendant. So sometimes there might be Saturn's wonderful. I love Saturn, but a lot of astrologers paint him as the bad guy, the evil dude out there. But he is about maturing us, growing us to a sense of responsibility, helping us be stoic and enduring. And I'm a big fan of the stoic philosophers. I think you can't survive on the planet without a bit of stoicism. And so these qualities are part of who you are. But Saturn can also hold things back. He's like, I've got to make sure. That's really Saturn's all about. I'm going to make sure astrology stuff until I make sure that it's the real deal, Right. So there's a lot of that in you, I want to check it out, especially in Scorpio. I want to go deep and understand this and check it out, and then I'll feel comfortable with it, So that's the Saturn on your ascendant, I think. Sort of, you want to make sure before you commit to anything, or get too deep into anything.
Yeah, I like to have my ducks in a row, or my gut feeling, aligned with whatever information or data that's come through. And Mikey knows me. I've said this a lot of times. I feel kind of just like a weather vane. Like, I feel like whatever is hitting me and directs me, because I can't lay it out in a good format. I can't give you the books or the citations or the quotes. It's just, I'm like, I've taken in all this information, and it's just like the wind blowing those weather vanes, and whatever direction they're pointing is where the input's coming from, or pushing them. And that's what, even to that fatalistic thing you said earlier, it's kind of what it feels like is, don't get me wrong, I know that I chose today to go get waffles with Mike and get a coffee and things like that. But it also gets down to the Jim Carrey thing of like, did I drink the water because I was thirsty, or I wanted to drink the water?
What Jim Carrey thing is that?
Oh God, when he did I think it's still on Netflix, and if it's not, it's a documentary called Jim and Andy, and it's after Jim Carrey did Andy Kaufman, Man on the Moon,
yeah,
because he was Andy Kaufman 24/7, and it broke him. It just literally, in a good way, it broke him, and he realized all these questions. Like, again, that if you said this to certain people, did you drink the water because you wanted to drink it, or because you were thirsty? Like, because if your will or your body said, hey, you need water, do you know how many people go, I don't care to even think about that? Like, it's a question that's not on their radar. So when you say, I need to know, oh yeah, I got to know. There are things that I need to know. And for me, my investigation practices, once I'm satisfied to a certain degree, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm good there. But in this bigger question area, it's been back to I've referenced it a ton here lately to Mikey and different guests and what have you, the book Ishmael. And if you're familiar with it or not, but great series, Ishmael, Story of B, and My Ishmael. But it's just a series that basically is kind of these bigger, broader questions, where you get very meta about the world and start thinking about the bigger questions, and where sometimes you can oscillate getting stuck in those big questions, like all of the astrology and astronomy going on, but I got to pay my bills, like looking at the big things, and then worrying about the things where I'm like, I don't think about taking the trash out half the time. Like, this is where like some of my ADD happens, is because I'm so concerned with the weirder questions that the trivial banality of life, I'm like, I don't care. I'll eat pizza every day because I like pizza enough. I don't want to think about like don't get me wrong, I'll get a cheeseburger, steak, but whatever. I don't want to overthink the little things and the I don't know if I think it's just banality, but the over and over. I brush my teeth
mundane
times. I put
life.
my socks on 1,000 times. Like, it drives me crazy after a while. I don't want to think those thoughts anymore. I just want new thoughts all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a little mania ride right there. I just took you guys.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm just like what you're describing, the mundane, everyday kind of stuff is a very Virgo kind of energy. They like the minute details, and the, detailed work is good for Virgo people, and the trivialities. But then if, and you have Jupiter's in your first house, and Jupiter is big picture. Jupiter is, I want to know, the philosophies and the ideas and and Jupiter and Mercury are kind of in astrology like opposing forces, if you like, because Mercury's like detail, and dotted I's and crossed T's, and Jupiter's like, I don't care about that stuff. I take it bigger and better. Let's explore out there. What is there to know? So you have Jupiter in the first house, according to the Campanus division system, and that is very it's wonderful actually to have Jupiter in the first house. They considered in ancient times that to have Jupiter in the first house was to be born under a lucky star. So that's a blessing to have that.
Yes.
Rock
I'll
on.
tell you what. That's one of the most positive reviews, not work related, in my entire life.
Yeah, you needed to hear this.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
I've never really gone down this road. I've done like, a reading like with, I think, tarot cards, something like that. Nothing too deep, but Mikey, like you said, you've had a couple of readings and you've come away with them a very positive,
like just things.
I'm intrigued to know your friend who's done Vedic astrology. Did he read your chart for you?
No. He became more of an archaeoastronomy, but an archaeoastronomer, and so he wasn't doing readings, but he was studying astrology and astronomy in the Vedic practice. So he's not practicing, but he took that and wanted to go and research ancient structures, and basically rediscover the alignments of, so he had to learn those systems to be able to then sit at an ancient site for weeks. I mean, he was out there for months and months and months before he discovered the winter solstice sunrise over Fajada Butte, which is this crazy looking mountain that's right in the center of the valley. If you're at Pueblo Bonito and these crazy 80,000 square foot structures that are out in the middle of this canyon, it's like, why are these here? You know, it used to be a lot more lush around there during the times that the Chacoans, you know, the Anasazi, whatever you want to call them. And so he was out there for months, him and his wife just camping out and hanging out there in a camper. And there he was at the winter solstice, and he found a jagged rock that was there that created a line that then aligned with that's pointing towards Fajada Butte. And so he, like I said, I don't begin to understand this stuff, but that was his main focus. He blew my mind. I'm like, unbelievable dedication.
I love that. Look, if you don't mind me doing a bit of self-promotion here.
Please do.
My partner David and I are doing a tour to Egypt. Hopefully it comes off with all the stuff that's going on in that part of the world at the moment. But with Patricia Awan Lehman, and we're going to be going. Patricia's a spiritual tour guide, let's call her that, in Egypt. She knows all the ancient sites. She's connected to the ancient wisdom keepers of the ancient sites all along the Nile. And she's hosting this tour. My partner David, who has a website called Undying Stars, and he's brilliant with mythological lore and celestial mechanics. So we're going to be looking at those kinds of things tied into Egypt, and I'll be doing the astrology for about 2 weeks in November. Cool. So that kind of stuff. Looking at, I mean, so many of those ancient Egyptian buildings were aligned to the solstices and aligned to stuff. There's power in that. If everything is energy, as we believe it is, there is power in those alignments. And Patricia particularly believes that there's like healing capacity in a lot of those chambers and things that
for sure.
the modern archaeologists who are adhering to the narrative don't talk about and won't, get on board with. But she's having worked with a lot of the spiritual wisdom keepers in Egypt, is aware of these sorts of things. So I'm very, very excited.
The Sufis and those folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Sufis have an incredible, they were able to hold on to so much of the Egyptian mystery schools that kind of underground made it and survived through Christianity. But, some of the best Egyptologists the real Egyptologists are the Sufis. I mean, they hold all of that history. They talk about the King's List, and some of these guys live for 1,000 years, 2,000 years. And it's like, this is history. This is not some mythological story here. These people were the men of old. They have them encased in all of the hieroglyphs. It's written about these King's List. This is pre-dynastic Egypt. And so again, one of my questions was, here in Ohio, we have these amazing earthworks, kind of like they have in England and Wales. We don't have as much stone structure, but we have these beautiful, geometrically perfect, aligned to the solstices, planet alignments, the sun. There's lunar calendars that track the 18.6 year lunar cycle. That's a big octagon out here in Ohio. That's just enormous. It takes up a whole golf course. So there's a golf course inside this lunar calendar. And so what is it about the ancient people? Were they just on a different trip? Why was everything they were doing, were building these unbelievable, and they were scientists, astronomers, astrologers, geomancers, geologists, like they had a civilization that just in that epoch were able to put it all together. Is that what it seems like to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, this comes back to, and you mentioned earlier in our interview about the precessional cycle. I mean, Plato talked about the great year being, between 24 to 26,000 years. Sort of, you get varying interpretations on that. But there are people, ancient writers who wrote about the yugas, were aligning with the solstice, precession of the equinox idea, the fact that we are moving in a 24 to 26,000 year cycle.
Right.
But they believe that our sun, and you've probably come across this theory, our sun is in a binary system with another star.
Right.
And because of that, I mean, look, 80% of stars out that we observe out there in the night sky are in binary systems or more, 3 stars, 4 stars, So why would our sun not be in a binary? Like it's more likely than not that we are. And science is starting to back this up through its research now. But the ancient scriptures talk about the golden age, and it's my belief through what the Hindus write about in their yuga system, that when the sun is in, and our solar system therefore is in close proximity at the closest point to its binary companion, we are elevated in consciousness. We use 100% of our brain. We talk telepathically with one another. We don't get ill. There's more justice and equality and love and fairness on the planet. It's heaven, basically. And then as the two stars move further away from one another in their binary circle, they drop down, we go into the Kali Yuga, which is this lower age of consciousness. We only use 10% of our brain. We get sick, and disease. There's poverty, there's war, there's corruption. What are we in right now? Is this the way it's meant to be? No, I don't think this is the way it's meant to be. We're in the Kali Yuga, that lower age. But the good news is, well, perhaps not for our lifetime, but for future generations and future incarnations, we're moving back to, we're not in the drop down, we're in the let's go back to the golden age again. We're heading back to it. So.
Man, we talked about that not that long ago, Bub. Well, I don't remember what guest it was, but we were talking about the Dark Ages being kind of the bottom of the previous yuga, and now we're the Kali Yuga. We're coming back up into, if you look at it as the golden age, the silver age, the Vedics talk about it. The Mayans talk about it, but it seems like the Dark Ages got a little very squirrely, and now we're kind of making it up. But now we're just going through growing pains of technology and how to use the internet. The internet's so young with smartphones. I mean, smartphones, the real 2007 is when smartphones pretty much, it took a while until 2009, 10 for everybody to have one in their hand. Yeah. We're only, 14,
the tech
15,
is going to get stranger.
Years.
The tech is going to get stranger.
Yeah.
Way stranger, way quicker.
So we're kind of going through.
Aquarius rules technology. Aquarius rules the internet, and Pluto has just moved in there this year. He will pop back into Capricorn for a month or two later in the year, but then he'll make his final ingress into Aquarius at the end of the year, sort of around November 19. But that is going to impact, like tech is just going to, in the next 20 years. It's like we think things are fast now and moving fast.
Right.
Like life has moved fast in our lifetime. The changes, the gadgets, the inventions, the progress, it's going to like blow our socks off in the next 20 years as part of that Pluto into Aquarius.
Because AI is already rocket fueling it. If they come out with disclosure of all this technology that supposedly these military industrial complex companies have reverse engineered UFOs, and if all that starts to actually become public, that's going to change civilization overnight. It's just if we're consciously ready for all that technology.
That's right.
It's going to take so much growing pains for us to realize that, with this, people don't really need jobs anymore. If you have energy, oil, gas, that's what moves the economy. Shipping oil is energy. So if we're able to have this, and they have to disclose, if all these things are flying around, the propulsion systems are super advanced. And if all this becomes public and we start implementing these into our society, now you're talking about getting to that Egypt level, that Atlantis level of civilization. And it could go quickly. It could be like, bam. And it's not this 150-year gradual from the Industrial Revolution to now, but this, like you said, 20 years and bam, we're in it.
Exactly. I think, I mean, there's so many, there's good and bad, there's shadow and light in everything. And we observe that in astrology. And Pluto is going to bring some great advances. I mean, look, I used to work as a town planner 20 years ago for a local council, and I've recently gone back to doing that a couple of days a week just to sort of keep my foot in the reality of what's going on in the world, because you can get lost in your head doing astrology all day, every day.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine.
And I'm astounded at the change in the workplace. It is far more now, work from wherever you want, come in for half a day and work the rest of the day at home. And it was so much more structured when I used to work in that hierarchical kind of a situation. And to me, it's just illustrating like how much has changed in the last 15 years or so. And that's just only going to increase the digital awareness, and where we can work and what work we can do. We're already seeing like massive change. It's just going to get even more that way. And that's, to my mind, I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing that Pluto in a very technological sign like Aquarius is representing. But one of the shadow sides, for example, and there's many positives and negatives that Pluto in Aquarius might bring, but one of the shadow sides might be that ideas become more important than production, like practicality. And we're kind of seeing this with all the farmers in Europe right now having to protest because what politicians don't value food and agriculture? My God, they're not aware where their food and what they eat comes from, Are they putting more emphasis on, ideas economy than the production of food or clothing or and we were talking in the beginning of this interview about Ohio, where you guys are having lost a lot of its manufacturing, and like, well, where are those goods going to come from, and so forth. That's a shadow side of Pluto and Aquarius, where it's all about ideas and technology at the loss of substance for what human beings need to live in. So that's one of the shadow sides, I think, of this time. Like there's good and bad, shadow and light, yin yang in everything.
Yeah, and it seems like everything is kind of blurring together, and you have it seems, a lot of the division. Hopefully that stuff's getting better. I mean, I do see signs that, and it's also the media and social media. It seems like people are always fighting, but really you go out there and you talk to people. Me and Bub went and got coffee today and hung out. Just everybody's super nice. You can strike conversations up with perfect strangers, and when you're out in public, I think
that's because you're Americans and you're also friendly. That's why.
Really? Well, in the Midwest, for sure. I hear the Midwest. We get that the people in the Midwest now on the coast. There's just so many people in New York City and LA. When you're on top of people, it kind of loses the value of life. So you're always bumping into
there's
many
not as
people.
many niceties because there's no point and there's no time to say sorry or excuse me. You just do it.
You're just going.
But you don't complain about it. Like when you drive there in a bigger city too, like you're going to get cut off. That's how traffic flows. You can't stop cars from getting in lanes. Like here in Ohio, we'll stop you from getting in a lane. We don't let traffic flow. We're like, no, I'm here first. Like you do that in New York, nothing's going to happen. So you just keep driving. Yep. They'll never hit you. They got to let you in, but you got to keep inching in. Like here in Ohio, it's a different vibe, but different animal.
Yeah, no, it's well, I've found that you Americans, when I've been over there, and my partner is from California, so you guys are just lovely. I love going.
You. I mean, I've never met a mean Australian myself.
They exist.
Thanks. Thanks.
Well,
we're just silly.
Yeah, and that was mostly at music festivals and places that were built-in happiness where you were. So, but it's like anywhere you go, people want shelter, love, food, water, and that's about it. No matter where you go, Africa, everybody has the basic needs. We're all pretty damn similar, and the old, we are all one. And I know it's cliche as hell, but man, when it boils down to
real.
The fabric of the universe, it really is true. And with the planet and with star systems and solar systems in the universe, it's just these different vibrating wavelengths That's all we are. We're all just a rock is vibrating at a much more dense wavelength than what we are. A water droplet is vibrating. It's all just sound, really, what it boils down to, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had a thought there and it's run out of my head, but that's right. I was going to say, having grown up in a very Christian environment, I was quite judgmental, I've got to say. And I think a lot of the time Christian people don't realize that they're being judgy. They think they're coming from a place of love. But in looking back at where I was, I realized I was quite a judgy person, and divorce is bad, and if you get divorced, blah blah blah. Well, I'm divorced, and and that woke me up to astrology and to not being so judgy, for example. But then, as I discovered astrology and looked more into it, I was like, these people who I've in the past judged for being horrible or nasty or rude or whatever, I realized they're living their chart, their energy, whatever their soul, decided to experience in this lifetime. That's what their soul wanted to know. And it took away that judgmentalism of, difference and character types that didn't align, that rubbed against me, and it just made me more accepting, because I realized it's this person is living their energy, their chart, as I am. And I know I rub people the wrong way sometimes too. So I just loved astrology for that reason, that it made me feel more accepting towards my fellow man. And we really need that. There's so much division being pushed on us now, and founded in what? A lot of the time it's just rubbish division that isn't based in anything.
It's manufactured.
We need to manufactured division, and we really need to get back to realizing we are divinity incarnate, I think, in human form, having an experience, whatever that experience looks like, man, woman, whatever race we are, whatever age we are, we're having a divine. So that's my perspective. Not everyone might agree with you.
I'm with you. I really think that these bodies are really just for us to experience this 3D realm, but we're operating in higher dimensions all the time, different timelines all the time, and resonating with different frequencies. Call them people, animals, plants, whatever it is. We're constantly interacting with
I talk
things.
to my plants all the time when I water.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It makes a difference, doesn't they?
Totally.
Doesn't
fantastic.
they? Doesn't it?
They look-
And we both have some gnarly succulents.
Oh yeah, we have a personal little jungle to sit in of just plants in our tiny little spot. Yeah,
Yeah,
little
you
coffee
do.
spot in our house.
Your house is awesome in that room.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, and when he had the house in that opening credits where it just was like a Rube Goldberg device everywhere, I'm like, I'm not going to lie. I wanted my house to be interactive.
And it is. My kids love going to his house.
Well, you guys are both in the right game for us to be moving into the age of Aquarius, because Aquarius is all about gadgets and technology and the internet and communication to large groups of people, communication on a big scale. So you absolutely in the right spot at the right time, I think, in history to be doing what you're doing.
Oh,
excellent.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for reflecting that. Because, for me, I like to do these kind of things, whether, we have you a guest on or not. I've been just feeling this pull to go and talk to someone, get some kind of a reading, get some kind of clarity, go meditate in the woods for a whole weekend by myself, just something like there's like this next step, for kind of everything we're trying to do down here. And sometimes it just kind of feels like, are we preventing ourselves? Am I preventing myself from really taking everything to the next level of what we're trying to do and accomplish? And, it's like, I know I need to get out of my own way a lot of times. And
I think you're about to do something very creative, potentially. Your progressed moon is about to move into the 5th house, which is creative intelligence. It's romance and dating as well. So I don't know what's going on in your love life, but there could be.
I'm married, happily married.
Well, might be time to amp up the
No, that doesn't mean you couldn't be having a good love life with your marriage.
Right. Time to amp up the romance in your marriage, I think. So
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
But yeah,
Your face
creativity
is so
very
red.
much.
I love it. That
I was
was
like,
so good.
well, hey, I'm all about that. I'll take a little,
was so
I'll take a
good.
little romance. Why not? We had a great Valentine's Day, and it's right around that time. So we did a really cool Valentine's Day episode with a woman that has been seeing angels and connecting with higher dimensional beings, and so we're kind of fresh from that episode. So hey. Let's go.
Ooh, very cool. Yeah, well, like I said, the fifth house where your progressed moon is going is all about the romance, obviously, but the creative expression as well. So you might find that when that happens, I think it's. Let me just check your chart. I've got it here in front of me.
Oh boy, very
cool.
In the next month. In the next month or so, you might find that from about a month on. It'll last about 3 years, that you might start getting lots of great ideas for new things you can do and new things you can implement and new things you can create. And especially as you guys are in kind of I would call this a performance kind of a field, like it's an entertainment field, isn't it? Podcasting and that's very fifth house as well. So I think that you're going to have a lot of new ideas and ways to progress and move things forward as part of that. So exciting times ahead for you.
Okay. All right. I again, I'm kind of blown away right now because
Think about the romance, aren't you?
always. No, but this is great because like I said, I kind of get the feeling of some of these things. I try to be pretty in tune with what's going on inside, what's, where do I need to go? Is there something that I need to like change the way I'm thinking about a certain thing? Let me go talk to this person and maybe they can help me, see it a different way or whatever it is. And so, thank you so much for reading our charts. I mean, Bub, that totally blew me away, dude. That was crazy.
Well, when she said it before the show even started, like, oh, well, the day after you were born, there was an eclipse. I was like,
yeah,
I was thinking during the episode, I was like, well, why would I know that? And I've never really dug into my own astrology and, I've never really gone down that road. Maybe if I had, I would have looked back and that would have blown my mind even then. But I mean, yeah, for you to come on and right off rip, that was the first. I was like,
oh, it's great.
What?
I was loving.
I was like, that can't be right. Is that right? It's just interesting because, I'll leave it at that. It was super interesting. I really appreciated that.
This is what I'm saying. Knowledge is power. Like you know that, and suddenly eclipses take on a whole new meaning for you, and you kind of pay more attention and to them when they happen.
For sure.
Yeah, it's exciting to
definitely
know,
will change my perspective.
To know ourselves.
So when you read our charts, you asked me for a couple things: our birthdays, our full names, and the place and time we were born. Is that just you work all those numbers and then it kind of like it's like a calculator in a sense?
Yeah, and it's so great these days, actually, Mike, because you can. About 30 years ago, before the internet, you had to figure it all out manually. Where were the planets on a given day? And there were charts and things that could help you do that, but it took time. These days, it's a click of a button. You just pop in your details into this free astrological software online. We'll do it for you. You can get a chart. And when you know how to read the charts like a map of the heavens, then you're off and on your way. And it's just so easy these days to do that. And there's so many techniques that are just the click of a button to sort of analyze and interpret now. So there's a wealth of information out there for anybody who wants to learn astrology, of course, or they can come study with me if they want to. But it is really important to know your birth time. And this has been a problem in Australia because Australia being a British, imperialist colony, we have not recorded our birth times. It hasn't been important to Australian culture. So a lot of people don't know what time they were born. And the time of birth is just so important. The Earth does a complete rotation in 24 hours. And in that rotation, there's a different, every 2 hours, there's a different rising sign rising on the eastern horizon. And you've heard me say already in this interview that the rising signs are most important. So if you don't know the time of your birth, you're not going to know your rising sign, and everything else in the chart is kind of almost meaningless or useless without knowing that birth time, that rising sign.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So if people are going to do astrology, they really do need to know their their birth time, and place has a bearing too. You were talking about seeing, I think it might have been Jupiter with the moon the other night in alignment. How gorgeous would that have been? But, where I am in Australia, we wouldn't have seen that. That would have been something completely different for us here on a different angle. They mightn't have been lined up in the same way. And that is a perfect illustration as to why we need to know where we're born and put that information in, because how the planets sit is very reflective of where we popped out of our mum at the moment we were born too. So yeah.
Makes total sense. Makes total sense to me. Yeah, I love
What
the
do
way you
think,
break it down.
Bob? Like,
I'm down with it.
you're
Like,
a
again,
beforehand.
I don't know if I'm skeptical of it. I want to say years ago, I even had like a sci-fi thought where I was like, what if there was, a movie of like, where people had different powers based off what month they were born, or, this or that. And I think that was just kind of very tangentially lined up with this. So weird that years later when I was like, really, does it? Again, because we see the readings in, say, a newspaper or the Inquirer or something, and people are like, oh, this is astrology, to which I'm guilty of. That's what most people encounter or run into. But again, when you're saying, when you actually boil it down and really take time, again, is it a perfect science? No, but I mean, it can really reveal a lot. I mean, even if it makes me feel more comforted, I'll take that. We have placebo medications you give people that still have a positive effect and can still yield. And I'm not even saying it's a placebo. I'm just saying, even in that sense of, even if to me, whether I believe it or not, it can still have that effect. But what I'm saying is, when you can believe in that too, man, what an amplification of, and it does to me. It explains a lot for me in a weird way. Like, I can't really spell it out for people of why that hit home so much.
Yours was like, dead on, bro.
Yeah, it was weird.
Mine was too. A little bit. I will admit. Yeah. I mean, mine was on point. That was on point. Bub and I went to Sedona and met up with. We did an Earth Wisdom Jeep tour with this guy named Kevin, who played 2 different Native American flutes.
2 flutes.
And he took us around all these vortexes, and he did these Native American spirit wheel cards. And he said, you put your intention. What do you want? Why are you here? Where do you want to go? What do you want to know? Whatever that is, put it into these cards, and then you pull the card. And me and Bub pulled these cards, and they were so incredibly dead on to us, what we needed at that moment in the point of history. And our guide was freaked out. He was so blown away that we pulled those cards. He's like, you don't understand. Like, this is all going to happen. Everything he told me. he was more excited. By the way,
we're out on a mesa in the middle of just red earth and desert. There's no one around while we're doing
beautiful.
This. Red we're up rocks. On this, and he's playing this flute and doing this stuff. So when he's having this
first time we ever got smudged. First time we ever got smudged.
Yeah. I have so much sage at home now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
bundles of sage everywhere. I do. It's incredible. It's fantastic. Yeah, every now and then just have to kind of clean, the ethereal cobwebs and the real cobwebs, and
that's
as above, so below type thing, and the whole. I connected a lot with your dualistic and kind of yin and yang, and I'm a very big believer in that. And I think even with like the oscillation you're saying of kind of the times of where are we coming into, the dark ages line up with this movement and bodies, and you can feel that. It kind of feels like we're almost like just about ready to burst. Or at least I do. I feel anxious of it, and it makes me feel anxious because I can almost feel that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we're all incarnated here for a reason. Like we perhaps wanted to be part of this big shift that's happening, and I'm like, what was I thinking?
Jeez, wow. Yeah, like when you're up in the the boat before you become born, you're like, oh, what do I want to sign up? Oh, that event looks like fun.
Yeah, what? No. Take me to some peaceful time.
Yeah.
But something you hit on before is so true. Like there's been a lot of shallow astrology that has given it a bad name. And unfortunately, that's just tarnished people's perceptions of it,
Right.
you know.
Or maybe on purpose,
like,
right? Maybe to denigrate it, maybe to say there's nothing to this, don't look at it. Who knows?
That's precisely what I think has happened, you know, particularly, like I said earlier, from religious circles. That's been a thing. So, you know, we really have our work cut out for us as astrologers to re-educate, I think, people to what it actually is and what it actually does. You know, I mean, just reading an article in a magazine is just telling you about your sun sign, you know, and oh, I'm a Capricorn, or oh, I'm a Leo, or whatever it happens to be. But that is only a minor fraction of who you are. You are all the planets. You are all the signs set up in a certain configuration that's unique to you, as I've already talked about.
Right.
And so just looking at that one little component might describe a bit of your life, but it's not going to give you any meat, really.
Right.
And that shallow astrology, I think, has, like I've said, left some scars that need to be undone.
Right. It'd be like if you were like giving a witness report to the police and they're like, what'd they look like? You like brown hair.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
How else are we going to find the person? Oh, just brown. Okay. That's all we got.
Brown hair.
Tall.
Yep. That's it. And that's all you've got to go on.
Makes sense.
Precisely.
Yeah.
No, it's far more complex than we've been taught to believe in the West.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, and we've talked about that, Mikey. You know, we talk about the history of Ohio, the history of the U.S. in general, and how we're kind of like, who didn't write the history well here? Because there's a lot that's just not really talked about.
It's all being hidden on purpose.
And so there's that whole, again, kind of like, don't look at this, pay no attention to it. You don't have these abilities, but, you know, wanting us to be subservient and just drone-like and do bidding, you know, and in a certain way, you know, the Great Pyramids of Egypt, no, we're not making those today, but the societies and culture spreading across this planet that's being built through the same kind of machinations of, you know, hey, we're going to, well, the pyramids, if it was built by slave labor, what have you, type thing of
definitely was
the
not
elite class with the information that, you know, makes the grunt workers do the grunt work. And I think we're waking up to that now. And that's what we talk about with those micro divisions too, is there's strength in numbers. We can all be very powerful together as a collective society and group. And that's what really worries the people that rule and have power, because they're like, wait, if you wake up to this, just like Mike, you talk about the movie Ants. Disney or whatever is DreamWorks.
Pixar, yeah.
There's collective power in all those tiny little ants, and we lose that. And when we get microfractured and we go, well, I'm not friend with that person over there now. Now we don't have those strong bonds, and you know, we just keep social distancing to where we don't go out and socialize anymore. And you know,
they've been undermining these powerful movements of the masses. In like the CIA has been doing stuff to stop this for years and years and years. But I'm excited on that topic because Pluto moving into Aquarius. Aquarius represents the masses, and Pluto's going to be there for 20 years. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, this might be scary to some people, but we had the French Revolution and we had the American Revolution.
Right.
And that was caused by Pluto being in Aquarius. But at that time, the collective consciousness wasn't aware that Pluto existed. So there's a shift that happens in the collective consciousness when we become aware of a planet. You know, so for example, when we discovered Uranus, then we started discovering electricity at the same time. Uranus rules electricity. And there was all these, shifts in science. Uranus is connected with science and space and discovery in space. And we started moving towards more of that sort of thing. So when we know that a planet exists, then more of what that planet represents and has always represented astrologically, because Uranus is a god from ancient times, Pluto is a god from ancient times, Neptune's a god from, like, the ancients knew about the energies, they probably even knew about these planets, you know, but in this drop down in consciousness, all we know about it for the last couple of thousand years has been the planets we can see with the naked eye. But now we're rediscovering these planets. So last time Pluto was in Aquarius, we had the revolution, but we didn't have the collective awareness of Pluto existing. Now we do. And in goes Pluto into Aquarius, revolution is what it is all about, really. And overthrowing the oligarchies, the elites that want to keep us in feudalist kind of situations.
Yeah.
And the knowing that Pluto exists, and Pluto is about transformation. Pluto is about being reborn. Pluto is god of the underworld, and what he does is exposes the underworld and the evil corruption in the underworld so it can be dealt with. That's what Pluto as the god of the underworld does. And that's what happened in the French Revolution. They're like, these dudes in Versailles, they're sitting there eating cake and we can't even afford bread. Off with their heads, you know. The evil and corruption is exposed and people have the opportunity to do something about it. And that, you can see it happening now. People are waking up going, what the hell? Who have we got in the presidency? And he doesn't run anything. He's a puppet and blah, blah, blah. We're waking up, and Pluto in Aquarius, revolution, but it's going to be more powerful this time and more effective, I think, than the American Revolution last time and the French Revolution, because the masses are aware of Pluto.
Let's go. Come on now.
Interesting. Yeah.
Let's
It's
go.
like, you know, scary too. Like revolution is.
I'm not scared. It's going to be tough, but you know what, man? It has to happen.
It has to happen. You're right.
You know, change is good. We need change. We need real change, not hope and
People
change,
that don't like
not
change,
written on a
you got a
poster.
problem. Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
That's
we
it.
have to be able to transition into whatever this next thing is. You know, are we caterpillars waiting to, you know, are we in a cocoon right now waiting to morphize into a butterfly? You know, is that butterfly going to be, you know, some kind of AI drone that we're all going to become? Or is it going to become these highly advanced human beings that once existed on this earth way back in ancient times and built pyramids and built the Mayas and the Incas and the Egyptians? We're talking that level of expansion.
Exactly.
That's my hope, that we go this timeline. And that's what we talked about on Ryan Singer's podcast, Me and Paranormal You, was, you know, we're kind of at this fork in the road. It's, you know, we can take this technologically advanced, or we can merge with technology in a more spiritual way in terms of creating these kind of unbelievable temples and, and, you know, getting back to astronomy and aligning not just these big square boxy skyscrapers, and we're just, you know, putting things out just to make things, but everything has an intention. We need to get back to kind of that. That's where I would like to see our civilization go. But I don't think I'm going to be alive long enough to see that, which is okay. You know, we're building the building blocks now for that, maybe.
Yeah, for our future generations, and that's important. You know, I feel like a lot of our politicians are just living to line their pockets right in this moment in time and not thinking about the future. Whereas I think, you know, those of us with children, you know, Mikey, you said you've got a daughter, you've got children too. I do too. I want my children to have a good life. I want to build a society for the future that is worth living in, you know. So I think good grounded people want that dearly, you know, even if our politicians don't seem to want to. So, it's time to build for the future, and that means making some radical change, I think.
Hopefully, we'll see.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said,
I'm for
Kesenya.
it. I'm for it. Yeah. I just, you know, I'm worried that it's very tough to break habits. It's very tough to break trends and historical patterns and domination and power structures. And, you know, just thinking out loud, this is what worries me about it, is trying to get people to relinquish that. You know what I mean? We talk about oil and whether or not we should use it in coal and this and that and whatever. And if we did, you know, if we had the Tesla energy that I think we should have, right, I don't think we ever need that stuff again. But I think that kind of takes away somebody's power. Nobody wants to relinquish power once they have it, right? You know,
yeah, that's it. They're going to fight.
Right.
You're going to have to pry it from their cold, dead
in my
hands.
job or in my roles? Do I want to go, if I'm in a job and I climb the ranks? Do I want to go back and work under somebody that I know? It's one of those things too, of where there's this kind of like elitism, and if it goes back hundreds or thousands of years, who knows how long this kind of stuff plays out. But if that's been just this game that we don't know about, but we're waking up to the fact that again, I don't think somebody's just going to willingly go, okay, well, the jig's up, you caught it. I think it's what you're saying. It's going to be more radical, and maybe with all of the signs that you're seeing within the planets and the movements of these celestial bodies, maybe that's really what's speaking to it, is you can see the machinations in the heaven that are reflecting down here on Earth.
Yeah. You can. I think about my partner David's favorite book is The Odyssey, and I think about how Odysseus dealt with the suitors who were glutting themselves on the resources that belong to everybody in his land. It's a very familiar scenario, and maybe we have to deal with the suitors in a similar way, but time will tell, and we've just got to keep rolling with it and practice that stoicism that the ancient philosophers talked about, I think.
There you go. Well said.
Beautifully said, Kesenya. Amazing.
So where are you guys planning on spending the eclipse? Are you going to go out to see it?
So there is something that time where I'm not sure if we have a gig that's firming up, but we were invited out to Serpent Mound for this event on the eclipse. And so around that time, we're actually invited to a different event that's kind of up north, and I don't think we're going to be able to make it to that, where Bill Homan and the Mitchell Hedges Crystal Skull is going to be. So the Crystal Skull will be in northern Ohio, and then there's another event going on at Serpent Mound, which I would like to just go for the experience of it, not bring a bunch of camera gear, not try to shoot anything, and just really focus on, no matter what I do, I feel like I want to focus on and getting just tuned in to everything that's happening.
Yeah.
So, but we're always trying to help different groups capture and live stream, but I think for this one, I don't know, I'm getting a sense that we need to just kind of focus on
be present in it.
Being present, yeah. So
great. It's a very exciting event. Yeah, something.
We're stoked.
I don't know if I'll be anywhere for it yet. Like you said, with the gig, if that happens, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Now I'm more stoked. Yeah,
it's going to be a game time decision.
Well,
I'm going to dig into it.
Yeah. Kesenya,
my partner David is speaking at, I just have to give a bit of a plug to the Snake Bros event at Utopia, Texas, where my partner David will be hosting. Hopefully I can get out there with him. We've yet to sort of arrange air tickets and what have you, but David will be there, and I think it's going to be a very, if I can create a word, apocryphal. I don't know if that is actually a word, but I'm sure you know what I mean. It's going to be a very apocryphal event in history, I think. It denotes a shift, I think, in energy. So, enjoy seeing the eclipse, everybody. It's going to be a doozy.
We're really looking forward to it, and we want to give you the floor to let everybody know about your lessons and your website, Guiding Star, all the things that you're doing, your YouTube channel, and then the floor is yours if you have any last messages for us.
Oh, well, I just want to say thank you for having me. This really has been so fun. I've just loved meeting you both, really. And looking at your charts, I get a buzz out of looking at everyone's charts. To me, it's a curiosity thing that I have. I love to know about people, and I love it. So thank you for this opportunity to look at your charts and to be here talking with you guys. As I said in the beginning, I have a YouTube channel, but I also have a website called Guiding Star Astrology. And if people want readings with me, they can. I also have a couple of other astrologers who work with me at that site. And they're brilliant. They do different kinds of astrology than what I do. So I have a Vedic astrologer who just does Vedic, and a Hellenistic astrologer who does Hellenistic astrology. I teach. You can find links to that on my website, but I teach through Thinkific and have some courses there that people can do to learn astrology and learn how to apply it to their own lives, as well as if they want to, go down the road of looking at other people's charts and analyzing other people's charts and looking at world history and through the lens of astrology is all fun and it's all empowering. So yeah, if anyone's interested, I'd love to explore your chart, or I'd love to meet you in that teaching space.
Oh, fantastic. I know a lot of people that listen to our show, they're kind of like us. They really like to explore a lot of different topics.
Curious.
Some people like Bigfoot shows. Some people like ghost shows. We cover a lot of things that are
Runs the
just
spectrum. Yeah.
It's very broad, which again, we've talked about maybe is a little bit more of a slow burn. But I think in the end, being kind of open to so many different things, because like you said, how it all connects, ancient civilizations and the stars and the paranormal and UFOs and technology and all these things. But I think, man, astronomy might be the one thing that really connects everything. After learning more about it on this episode.
Yeah.
So
it did in ancient times, and it's still going on, but we just got to wake up to that fact, I think, as a humanity. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, there you go, guys. Connect with Kesenya. Get your reading, get your chart done.
It's worth it. It's worthwhile.
If you're interested
So cool.
in learning about astronomy, please go check out the classes and the knowledge base. And it's something that I think everybody. There's certain things that people are trying to find something to learn about. And, I think this is something that so many people could sink their teeth into. So thank you for the education. I feel like I got a crash course in astronomy myself, astrology myself.
It helped brighten the picture and really paint a better picture overall. Like I said, of like, oh, if it was a police description, what'd they look like? Oh, they had eyes. I didn't see that. It just makes a lot more sense now of like just that very rough point of view of like, oh, it's something from Inquirer. No, it's
right.
There's a lot to it. Like, start digging into it once.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, this has been incredible. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I know that. That's. I've been having trouble sleeping the last few nights, this whole week. So this is my mind's on fire, but in a good way. I'm inspired. I think, Bub, you got some incredible messages, and we couldn't be more thankful for this episode.
Yeah, really
and
appreciate it.
Gracing us with your time and making this happen. And I can't wait to connect with you and your partner more in the future. It sounds like we've got a lot in common with him, and it sounds like we need to get him on the show and have another conversation.
Absolutely.
So
that'd be fun. That'd be great.
Let's do this again sometime. Maybe when there's something exciting happening in the stars, and like the eclipse, we can talk about.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. You are welcome back anytime. Guys, go check out everything Kesenya is doing. Kesenya, don't go anywhere. We're going to outro the show, and we'll come back and give you a proper goodbye. But guys, Kesenya Moore, amazing.
There you have it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, brother.
Thank you.
Pretty.
Blew my mind.
That was just absolutely incredible, man. You're going to be processing this one, I think, for a while, Bub. No doubt about it. This is, I knew this was going to be great, and I secretly did set up this episode specifically for you, brother. I really had a feeling that there was just something with not so much that I was going to, even though I learned so much about my chart and the things that she said about my journey was incredible. But man, I really was excited to see that message come through to you. I'm just as blown away as you are. Incredible episode. But shout outs. You guys can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the social media platforms at The Strange Road. If you're here on YouTube, hit that like button. You got to subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you're listening in Spotify, Apple, anywhere else, we're on YouTube Music now. We're on iHeartRadio now. If you guys are listening and used to listen to us on Google Podcasts, You can now go to YouTube Music where you can watch and listen. You can click this toggle that has the audio button or a video version. So it's literally connecting directly into our YouTube channel. And so go check that out. It's a great replacement, YouTube Music for Google Podcasts. We appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you guys for listening, hanging with us. I know you guys are probably buzzing right now with this episode. And please go follow Necromechanimal on Instagram at Necromechanimal. He does all that dope artwork for us. Keep up with all the crazy posts and amazing stuff he's doing. And, much love to Stoner, Disborough, all the guys. And you know what?
Absolutely.
We actually never did this.
What are you doing?
Bam!
Master Control Cam?
Master Control Cam!
There's Mikey.
There we go, baby.
Rocking it solo. Is Rolo in there?
Rolo's under the table. He was snoring
he's
earlier.
Under the table. Oh.
Yeah, he was snoring a little bit, but I was like, "What is that sound?" Anyways,
he shook his collar, and I thought he was in this room. I was like, "Geez."
Yeah, but
Good
go hit
microphone
that.
there.
Go hit that Discord channel. Check out the merch portal, thestrangeroadmerch.com. Hit us up, DM us. Let's get in contact. Join the Discord. Get the conversation going. We're gonna put this baby to bed. Peace.
There you go.
Love and chicken grease to all of you.
Later,
We're
everybody.
out. Bye-bye.